Good morning, friends. Good to see you again. So today for art, we're going to be doing something really fun. We're going to be making robots using shapes. And I know we've talked a lot about shapes, but this is going to be a really good review for you. With our Mary Blair project, we were using those geometric shapes. We're going to use those again. But just so we can remember really quick what those are, geometric shapes are the ones that can be drawn perfectly, like these on the board here. And then when you compare them to a different kind of shape called an organic shape, they look really different. So here you can see the difference between geometric and organic. I know we need to do some organic shape stuff, I know, but these robots were so much fun. I did these with my with a couple of my other classes, and they turned out really nice, and so I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to do this lesson as well. Our robots can have lots of different personalities, and we're going to be using tracing shapes to create the bodies of our robots. And then we're going to be adding some onomatopoeias alongside our robots. An onomatopoeia is a word that represents the sound of something. So it'd be like, for animals, it'd be like woof or meow. For robots, that might be buzz, beep, bloop, clank, crash, boom, pow, things like that. So they're sound words. So it's a lot of fun. What we're going to do now is I'm going to be moving to the table so you guys can see your supplies. But you'll be getting gray paper because most robots, when we think about them, are gray, like the metal, shiny metal. So you're going to get gray paper. You're going to be getting tempera paint, so it's going to be a little messy. You're going to be getting oil pastels, and then a new supply to your room called Woodies. They're like big colored pencils, and they work really well for writing the onomatopoeias and doing these action lines around our robots. You'll also be getting a list of robot onomatopoeias for you guys to choose from. You can practice sounding out these words yourself or have your teacher friend help you with them. If it's more comfortable for you, you can outline or underline words as you go over them with your teachers and helpers so that you know exactly which ones you want to write around your robot. Okay, so we are making geometric shaped robots today. Let's get ready. Okay guys, we're back to the table. We have our supplies. Really quick before we get started, I wanted to show you the different supplies we're working with. I know when Mrs.Marple sometimes sends stuff down, it seems like I send a lot of stuff. And there's a reason for that because I want you guys to get familiar with using a bunch of different kinds of art materials. So we all use pencils in our classroom. A lot of times we use markers and crayons in our classroom. But there's a lot of things that are not in your classroom available for you to use, and so I want to have you experience those things. So we are going to be using oil pastel. Remember, those are those nice crayons that are really creamy but can be kind of messy. So we're going to be using a black pastel to start. Actually, we're going to be using pencil first, and then we're going to go over it with pastel. And then we're also going to be coloring our robot with some colored pastels. After the pastels, we're going to be using tempera paint. Tempera paint is the paint that you do not have to add water to. It's liquid tempera instead of the tempera cake that comes in these same trays, but you just add water to them. These are those different ones. And so I have actually mixed some custom colors for you guys to use for the background of your robot. And then after everything is all dry, you're going to be using those onomatopoeia lists that I give you guys. And it'll come with a video to help explain and kind of get the song stuck in your head about what onomatopoeias are. You're going to use this to write those words around it. And for that, you're going to be using a new supply. For some of you may have used these. These are called Woodies, and they're like really nice colored pencils that are big and chunky, so they're easier to hold and make nice dark marks on your paper. And I've got a whole bunch of different colors for you. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to be drawing our robot. And I'm going to give your classroom a bunch of bags of shapes, and I want you guys to each have your own bag of shapes so that you can kind of lay out your robot at your table before you start tracing. I want your robot to be really big, so what I want you to do for me first is we're going to take our long sheet of vertical paper, that means tall up and down. This is what we call horizontal. So vertical paper, we're going to fold it in half. And we call this hamburger folding, right? Just folding it like a book. That's another way that I talk about it. So you're going to fold it and put that crease down there, and then we're going to open it back up. And the only reason we're doing this is so that we know where halfway up our paper is, because I want you to put your robot belly right in the middle. So pretend that he's got a belly button. Robots don't need belly buttons, but pretend that yours does. You don't need to draw one. But that's where I want your belly button of your robot to be so that we can make him nice and large. Drawing to fit the space is an important part of your education as well. We don't want a tiny little robot. We want him to fill the whole space. So it might be easier for you to start with the belly. So you can use a rectangle, you can use a square, you can use a rhombus, you can use a combination of the shapes together. It's really up to you. But once you kind of get an idea of where you want things to go, you can kind of mix and match different shapes for your robot. I think I want this for my belly. And then I'm gonna do a silly rhombus head. And you may not have all the shapes that you want right now, but you can kind of get started. So I know I need 2 legs for my robot, but I only have one of the correct size that I need. But since we're tracing, you can trace one and then move it over so that you know what you want to do with it. And your robot can be doing anything. He can be holding grocery bags, he can be playing basketball, she can be a ballerina robot. There's so many different things you can do with your robot. He can be wearing a hat. I don't know. So what you're going to do first is you're going to be tracing these shapes with your pencil. So I'm making sure that my body is in the middle where that fold is. My belly button's right here at the fold. Not too low, not too high. Ooh, this pencil's broken. See how far we can get with it before it breaks to where I can't use it. I'm going to trace the shapes. I'm going to hold down with my non-dominant hand. That means the hand that you do not write with. And then you're going to use your pencil and you're going to press it up against the edge of the tracer. Okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to move on to the next shape. And you can change your mind. If you're working through here and you decide that, you know what, after all, I don't want an oval head or I don't want that rhombus head, you can change it because right now everything is going to be in pencil. And mistakes are okay because we can fix them or we can turn them into something else. I want to make a little neck. So I'm just drawing on the edge of my tracers, and you can see like this one here, it accidentally has some pencil on it, but guess what, that's fine. That's what happens when we learn to trace, is sometimes we accidentally draw on the shapes, and it's no big deal. Mrs.Marple does not care. So I'm gonna take some time right now, and I'm going to draw my robot by tracing my shapes, holding it down with that non-dominant hand, and pushing up against that shape with my pencil to make nice straight lines, because you want these to look like geometric shapes. You don't want them to be organic shapes. Remember, organic shapes are those wild and wiggly shapes, kind of like this. That's an organic shape, right? We don't want those wiggly shapes on this. Today, we're just working with geometric shapes. So straight lines and angles and perfectly curved lines like circles. So I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna add some more to my robot, and then I will meet you back here for the next step. Okay, so I have my robot all finished up with his body. I haven't done any of the details like buttons, eyes, mouth, things like that. And you can do those freehand, meaning you don't need a tracer to do your face. But if you want to use a tracer, I do have some smaller tracing tools you guys can use for that. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to make a little face, and your robot can have any kind of personality you want. He can be a helper robot, she can be an angry robot, sleepy, excited. It can be a party robot or a superhero robot. So whatever kind of robot you want, you can make. Put some buttons over here, some lines over here. Let's see, put some stripes on his legs, so it looks like his legs can move. Maybe his arms too. I like that. Okay. And after you are finished with your black pastel, you're going to get some colored pastels to color in areas that you like. So if I wanted to emphasize, meaning draw attention to anything in particular, I would want to color that part. So I think I want to create some emphasis, meaning draw attention to my triangle here. I really like how the shape turned out. And I also like the buttons and I like the silly hair at the top. So I think I'm gonna color those things, but you don't have to color very much of your robot because the paper is already gray. And that's what's so nice about using a colored paper instead of using just a white piece of paper. White paper is great for a lot of things, but it's fun to be able to have a new opportunity where you don't necessarily have to color everything on your picture before you start painting the background. So I'm gonna take a break. I'm going to get my pastels and color some areas in, and then we'll talk about paint. All right, I have finished my robot, and you're probably a little surprised. I decided to go a little overboard with my coloring. After I colored his hair, I felt like he needed to be a clown because I chose pink for his hair. And so I went ahead and did some different patterns on him. I did some polka dots and some stripes, and I really like how my triangle turned out in the middle. I really think it creates that emphasis I was wanting. Even though my clown is kind of crazy right now, I still have my eye drawn to this middle shape that I really like. So at this point, I would go ahead and stop for the day. This would be day 1. And then your next art day, you're gonna be using your liquid tempera, which means you probably need to cover up your tables. You can choose any one color. And the reason I want you to use just one color is because you wanna make sure that, I'm trying to figure out what color I want. Green maybe. Because we want our words, our onomatopoeias that we're gonna write on the outside to really stand out. And if we use too many colors, a lot of times it gets a little crazy on our paper and we won't be able to see the words that we're going to write. So I am going to use this green, and I'm not going to be mixing it with any other colors. When you pick a color, you're stuck with it. And you're going to use the same color to paint around your shape. Paint in the negative space. The negative space is the space around an object. So everything around my clown that is not part of my robot, because I don't have a background right now, is considered negative space. My robot is positive space. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this off the edge of the paper. So hopefully you guys have plenty of placemats or something to cover your table with so that you can paint right off the side and not worry about making a mess in your classroom, because you are responsible for the messes you make. If you make a mess, you need to clean it up. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and paint around my robot, and I will meet you back here for the next part of the lesson. All right, my background is fully painted. My negative space is all green. So this will need to completely dry before the next step, but when you finish this up, it'll only take a few minutes. So once this is dry, you'll be using just the woodies. So you can put away all of the paint, all of the pastels, all of the pencils. The only thing you're gonna need when you come back after this is dried is your woodies, your onomatopoeia list, and the video to watch about the words. All right, guys, I will see you guys soon. All right, guys. I hope you had a chance to watch the video on onomatopoeias. It's like 2.5 minutes long. It's really fun and short, and I really think it explains onomatopoeias very well and very clearly. If you know some onomatopoeias that you feel would go good with your robot that are not on my robot list, feel free to use those. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to pick out, let's say, 5. Let's do 5 to 7, somewhere in there. You don't want them to be so small that you can't see them, so we wanna make sure that we have a large space to write them in. Let's do it this way. But you also wanna make sure that you have enough in there. So I think I've got 4 on here. How about 4 to 6? We'll say 4 to 6, okay. So you're gonna look at your list and you're gonna pick out some that you feel represent your robot well. So if it's a silly robot, it's gonna make a different noise than maybe an angry robot. If it's a fairy robot, it's gonna be different than maybe a clown robot. So pick some words in here. I'm gonna pick clap, okay? So I'm going to find a space on my picture, and because I use the color green, I might not want to use the color green, to try to draw this word on my picture. I could give it a shot, and if it doesn't show up, I can always use a different color on top of it. But I'm going to use some colors that I know will show up really well on it first. So I'm going to use some different colors, and I will do clap. So when you use all capital letters, it gives the illusion that you are saying it louder. Same thing with your exclamation points, right? Depending on how many exclamation points you put at the end of your word, it kind of gives the person an idea of how loud it's being made, how loud the sound is. So I have clap. And if you want to, you can add some extra lines around the words, like I did on this one. Or you can just leave them words, like this one. I kind of like the action lines. I really thought that added something extra to my picture. So I'm going to add some action lines around it. So now I can go on to the next one. How about bam? So I'm going to come on another side away from my clap. And I am going to make sure that these words show up nice and bright. So you might want to go over them twice. Am I doing the wrong word? I said I was going to do bam, didn't I? Oh well. Let's see. I'm going to do blip. Let's do blip. Blip. And some more action words to go along with it. So you're going to do this all the way around your picture with a couple of different words. 4 to 6, I think is what we had said. You want them big enough that we can see them. And you want to make sure that you have enough to make your robot interesting. It's a really good way to fill up your background, and it touches on something that's important in your writing and your reading that you're doing inside your classroom, which is recognizing onomatopoeias. So I hope you guys had fun with this. As soon as these are done with the words, you guys can take them home. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope it inspires you to come up with some new interesting robots, maybe even without using those tracer shapes. You guys can draw your own geometric shapes, or maybe an organic shaped robot. I usually like to do organic shaped monsters though, because those are more wiggly and wobbly. All right, bye guys.